Well, government officials and business leaders from Peru gathered at the New York Stock Exchange today to participate in the third annual Peru Day. The event kicks off a three-day roadshow in the U.S. with stops in New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. And I caught up with the Peruvian Finance Minister, Miguel Castilla, at the New York Stock Exchange and asked him what he hopes to accomplish on this road trip.
We'd like to showcase our country as a fast-growing economy in Latin America, the fastest with the lowest inflation rate, and to be able to show the ample investment opportunities that we have. This is part of a public-private initiative that we're working on, both government officials and leading business community from our country. And we think it's timely to show, investment opportunities in infrastructure and in different areas that our country needs to be able to keep on growing at the rate that we've been growing. Very fast growth, over 6%. And I think beginning here in New York is very important. It's the capital, the financial capital of the world. So beginning here in the stock exchange is quite meaningful. Last year I was here, and I think these trips pay off because we've had a record high FDI coming into our country and private investment growing over 15%.
Peru is considered one of the new tigers of South America with forecasted GDP for 6.3% this year. Where do you see this growth coming from? Basically, it comes from a thriving internal demand. We have a growing middle class. There's a consumption boom, there's an investment boom, and a construction boom going on. And we expect that the better prospects in the global markets, in particular in Asia, the recovery in the US, will help also the tradable sector, exports, to grow at faster rates. Last year, we had our exports suffer from lower commodity prices and lower demand here in the US and elsewhere. So we expect the combination of both. But the internal demand is basically the main engine of our growth for this year. Well, you mentioned mining exports, and they make up about 10% of Peru's GDP. As you said, there's been a slowdown recently. What are you planning on doing to increase that in 2013? And mining is a very important sector. It constitutes about 40% of our tax revenues, and it's around about 45 to 50% of our exports. We have lots of important projects coming into stream. We need to accelerate the license and permits provision. We have important projects, and I think the prospects look promising. We're going to be able to double copper production in the next 5 years with important investments from Swiss, from British and American, Canadian firms. How much of the investment into Peru do you see coming from China? I think the trend is quite interesting, but still our investment is concentrated with the European countries. Basically, Spain, the UK, Switzerland, and the US are our top 4 sources of investment, of FDI. Japan and Korea, we have more investment coming from those Asian countries than from China, but we're seeing a very rapid trend of investment, not only in the mining extractive areas, but also trying to cater for fast-growing domestic market. We have the Chinese banks opening up offices in Lima, and we see also construction companies coming into our country from China. So I think, although the picture now looks promising, but still our investment comes from primarily the industrialized countries and some of our neighbors. Chile in Latin America is our main investor. But if you ask this question perhaps in a couple of years, I think China is going to be among our top 10 investors coming into our country. How much of growth in exports do you see happening with China this year? We think that the growth of China, which is set to be above 8% this year by analysts, will push our exports, our traditional exports of copper, zinc, and other commodities. So if I were to put a share, I think about 25% or 30% of our exports will be determined by Chinese performance this year, particularly through its effect through prices.